Whee! Crap. Okay, I know I said I'd do a tutorial on the DU orbital, but I got distracted and started working on this mega structure here that I've got going on. And I just thought, let me do a quick video on some tips and tricks to building big. So, welcome fellow Novians, my name is Rob, and this is another video in the tutorial series called Building Big, or Tips and Tricks, or something. I haven't titled it yet, so we'll see how that turns out. So my first thing is go ahead and plan ahead, right? If you're doing a multi-core building, this one is 4 large cores, so 2 cores across, 2 cores high. It is somewhat of a task to get everything lined up the way it should, and to get things like these designs or this horizontal line I have going up here the way I want them, because you can see, if I get closer here, this is my building zone for this one part of this building. Everything else has to attach or overlap or other things. So plan ahead. You need to plan your overlap for where your cores are placed. You can move them out of the way once they're placed, but once they're placed, you're kind of stuck with them. So if you screw up, you're going to have to delete the core completely and replace it. Like if this was not overlapped by one voxel, I actually have these just touching each other, so they're not even overlapped here. There's a little bit more overlap up there. But if I had a space here, I'd be screwed. And especially if I built all this out and then I started working over here and I was like, oh crap, they don't meet up, I'd have to redeploy one of these cores. Which also brings me to the other tip, right? Always start from your overlap point. So you want to discover that these don't touch before you get to the building. So if I started this building from that edge and I came all the way here, and then I started this building from that edge and then I came all the way here, and then I realized that there's a gap here, I'm screwed. There's no amount of backspacing that's going to help me in the long run, right? So always start from the edge, and the same thing with like these windows. If I started from that side and I came this way and I realized that I don't have enough space to place another large window, well then I'm kind of screwed. So I need to start my windows from this edge, right? And then go that way. So let's talk about placement, right? And the arrow keys. The arrow keys are your friend in this case. And let's talk about how to do this the easy way. And this goes for any elements that you're placing that are repetitive, or that you need fine placement on. So if I was just using my mouse and keyboard, I would place this, right? And then I would go over here and I would try to get this lined up with the edge here. And then click, and then go over here and get it lined up with the edge, and then click, right? Okay, so that's repetitive, and it's going to give me carpal tunnel. Well, actually both methods will give me carpal tunnel, but this one's faster. So if I use my arrow keys to get this lined up, right? Nice lined up placement here, and I hit enter, the next window is now inside of that window, right? So I can just move this over, and obviously if I just use the arrow keys, you can see it only moves 1 voxel at a time, and that's really slow. So I would have to hit my arrow key lots and lots and lots. Well, if I hold control down, it's going to move 4 voxels at a time. So I can just hold control, 1, 2, 3, 4, enter, 1, 2, 3, 4, enter, right? 1, 2, 3. Whoa! When you change the way you're facing, the arrow keys change the way you're moving. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So we can just do this really fast. especially for placing a row of things. And this goes for like fuel tanks or anything else that you may have to place like in a row or next to each other. You can just use the arrow keys to get them going the way you're going. So you'll see as I get to the edge here, I'm going to end up with like not a full window space. All right, I'm just going to stop that for a second so I can move faster. Unless I want to hold control and the arrow keys and shift, and you may be able to do that if you're like super ambidextrous. Anyway, right, so we get to here. Oh man, I messed up. What is this? This is a gap. So now I got a backspace. And that brings me to another tip. Always monitor what you're doing and where you're placing. It can get repetitive, and you know, overall you can kind of get into like a lull of just placing things. And this goes for voxels too, and then you get really far and then you realize that you screwed up like way back when, and you don't want to backspace everything out because that just took a lot of work. So always kind of watch what you're doing. You don't want to get too far ahead and then realize that you put something sideways or out of place or one voxel above something else, and then have to go back and delete a whole chunk of things, especially if you like log off for the day and you come back and you're like, oh crap, now can't backspace. I got to delete all of this. All right. So you can see I have this small gap here, which if it was on that side of the building, I would have an issue because I wouldn't be able to cross that build zone. Everything would just turn red. It wouldn't let me. But on this side, I can hide it in the voxel work. So there we go. That is placed, and we're good to go, right? And then we just move on and move on and move on. Repetition is the nature of the game here when building big. So let's talk about the other time saver, and that would be copy paste, right? Copy paste with these big buildings is your friend. Once you get a section done, you can copy it and then just paste it over and over and over again. So let's look at this ceiling up here, right? The normal way, I mean the long way of doing this would be to bring out your voxel placement tool. We'll go here. And I always go too deep on my walls and my ceilings and my floors. Because I've learned that if I want to cut out a piece of it, or I want to inlay something, or I just, like, say I wanted to put a row of lights, but I wanted to cut into it, well, if I didn't have it too deep, then I would just cut a hole in the ceiling and you'd just be looking at the sky. But since I have this too deep, I now have a little bit of room to play with. Anyway, the slow way of doing this is to go out here, right, and then drag it out until it turns red, and then say, oh, okay, whoop, nope, 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 okay. There we go, right? The easier way of doing this is we're just going to go ahead and select as much area as we can before this tool tells me that my build area is too large, right? Oh, selection area is too large. And maybe I shouldn't have done this gap here. So let's actually start from here. And we're just going to select until it tells me that my build area is too large, which is right there. Go ahead and Control C to copy it. And now I have this big chunk. This is great for like placing floors or a runway or anything else, right? Obviously, I can't be inside of it when I place it or bad things will happen. And we'll just go ahead and place it. And if I hold the T key, I can get some fine movement here without it jumping around, because normally if I just move my mouse around, it goes all over the place. So you're going to get it kind of lined up right, hold T, and that'll let me move it in this plane of space, and I could just copy this and paste it over and over again. All right, look at how easy that is. I just placed 3 of them, and you know, keep going. And then if I want to do like fine placement, again, I can use my arrow key to fly around and take a look at how it's going to place. You can see there's not an overlap here, so let's move it back a little bit. And we're good to go, right? And I can just keep doing that over and over again, just paste in these big chunks It's going to use a lot of materials, obviously. So again, plan ahead. Make sure you have enough materials. I've already run out of wood again, so I'm going to have to go and mine some coal. Luckily, I've got some mega nodes pinned. And you can see I screwed up somewhere. I screwed up right here. How did I do that? I don't even know. So now I'm going to have to go back and fix that. Sorry about the sniffles. It is freaking allergy season. Who knew there were allergies in space, right? So I'm going to have to fix all this, make sure it's too deep. Apparently when I selected the copy paste areas, I did not select enough of the material. So always make sure you select like up and down. And that was good. I caught it before I went and did something else. So I could just hit backspace to backspace out of that, right? All right, so we talked about playing ahead, copy paste, using them arrow keys, the control button to fast move stuff, starting at the overlap and planning ahead. It helps if you have an image or like a JPG file, so you can kind of refresh back to that. If you're good at art, you can draw out like what you want, because look at this, like this is the like this line goes through that building area, this building area, that building area. So it's important to have like the overlap and stuff. All right, and before we finish up, I just want to give a shout out to Neocryptor, who is another content creator on here. He does a ship showcase every week where you can, oh crap. That's one thing about falling. Sometimes stuff doesn't render in time for you to land on it. And that's how I ended up under the runway before. So if you're going to jump off of big structures, make sure to catch yourself. I'm not sure I like how those windows are like dirty looking. Well, not much I can do about it. Anyway, this right here is Neocryptor's Wonkavator, and I'll put a link to that in the description. I saw this on one of his ship showcase videos, and I just had to have one because it has made my life super easy for doing these large structures, and I will show you why. So if we turn this on, it's got its own custom HUD, and it makes this little animation, and yep, there's my character name, so that's cool, right? Anyway, it's a VTOL, so if you hold spacebar, you can go up. If I let go of spacebar, it's just going to hover here. So if I am placing cores, so let's say I need to place another core. Let's say I want this building to go 3 cores high, right? Well, normally I would stand on top of the building and I would put the core down and I would page up to make it go as high in the air as I could possibly get it before it turns red, and then I would place it. But by doing that, like half of my build area is going to be overlapping into the build area below it. And I just want it like 1 or 2 overlap. So this thing right here, if I get over my build zone, let me take off the brake here, right? So let's say I get over here. I'll turn the brake back on so I don't keep drifting. All right, if I get up here, I can turn this thing into hover mode by turning on the ECU and deactivating the remote control. And then what I could do is I could place that core right here, and I could page up, and I will be standing inside the build area close enough that I can just hit enter and place the core. And then I'll be in build mode, and I you know, I can move around freely, and then I can come back to this, get out of build mode, and then take it back into flight control, and I can go over to the next area and place the core and make sure everything's lined up. These things are great for large buildings or for platforming if you're going to build like a space platform or a suborbital platform or something like that. I would highly suggest it. Go get you a Wonkavator today. These things are pocketable, so they're great if you have an emergency. They're not that fast flying in atmosphere. I think the max speed is like 800 meters per second. So it's going to take a while to get somewhere, but you'll get there. Or you can just like dock it into your ship or on top of a ship or something else like that, right? So it's good to go. And that is my video, right? If you liked it, go ahead and slap that like button and the subscribe button and the notification button if you want to be notified every time I post a video. I really appreciate any subscriptions, views, likes, comments. Let me know if there's something else that you want me to touch on. If there's some other type of tutorial that would be helpful to you, go ahead and drop that in the comments. I always read my comments. Otherwise, I will see you in space. Stay safe out there.